Here we go. We're live. It's been a minute since I've been live. Actually, it's been a while. For the average 5 viewers who usually watch us, we were formerly 3-team parlay. Upon my attorney's advice, I switched the name. We're now the Sports Report. So you can tell, I don't know if you see the background, we're in near downtown Dallas in a new studio. We've got some producers here off screen. We got a new face that didn't join me before. I want to introduce J.R. Hensley. My guy is a permanent fixture here. We're going live every day, Monday through Friday. Our current time slot is going to be 10 to 12, right?
Right.
If we ever hit that 10 viewer mark, we might pivot.
Right. Yeah.
So I found JR on Instagram. I liked his content. He's an athlete. He brings an insight that I can't bring. I haven't played D1 college football or played at the professional football level like JR has. JR, man, tell us, for those that don't know you, man, give us the quick rundown. Where'd you start out and how'd you get here?
So I grew up in a baseball background. My father was a supplemental first rounder. My brother was a first round draft pick in 2012. Baseball was everything I ever knew as a kid growing up. And then, as things progressed, I just kept getting bigger. I remember having umpires coming up to me, mid outing and be like, "Hey man, you're on the wrong field." And I'm just like, shit, I already know that, like it's nothing new to me.
Talk to my dad.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then it just got to some point, it was like in my junior year of high school, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put the baseball down. I'm going to go ahead and start moving people against their will. And from that point on, I was just heavily focused on football. And so the recruiting process was pretty nuts. I assumed I was going to play a lot closer to home than where I ended. I ended up going to the University of Hawaii. So that phone call initially that I got was just, I didn't think it was real. And I also didn't anticipate on going there when I first got that phone call. But it was like a month before National Signing Day. And they were like, we're not going to offer you the scholarship yet. We just want you to come and check the place out. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I was
they knew, man. They knew.
Well,
the scenery does the deal, right?
Oh, that's the thing. That's what they sell. And I was a host over there on official visits all the time. So when I had recruits, it was fishing with dynamite. How can you not convince a kid to come and play in paradise? So I ended up going over to the University of Hawaii. I redshirted my first year, and then by the time the bowl game came around, my redshirt freshman year, I started and pretty much just elevated from that point and was an anchor for a turnaround program. And, we went from losing every conference game to, winning our division by the time that I was done playing in the Mountain West Championship. So that was a big turnaround for us. By the end of my football career over at Hawaii, I had a season-ending injury with 3 games left in my senior year. I tore my quad, and that pretty much ended my chances with any type of draft or any type of combine or, the interest that I had, which wasn't super significant. I was a smaller school guy. I didn't anticipate on getting drafted, but I knew that there was interest there. When that happened, I just knew, everything went silent. So from that point on, it was a year-long process, 7 months of rehab. And
tore the quad clean off the bone, right?
Yeah, so 3 of the 4 quadricep tendons tore right off. And because of the one that stayed, it rolled up into my kneecap. So I had a big old ball sitting on the top. So they had to pull everything back, put it down and kind of just let nature do the work for about 7 months. And then 5 months into it, 5 months after that is just strength training, trying to get back. And I got injured at 340 pounds and then came back into the football scene at 280 dripping wet. And as an offensive lineman, I knew it was rough because I would have people in the street coming up to me like,
you need a cheeseburger up, baby.
Well, they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I play football. And they're like, oh, are you a tight end? And I'm just like,
Well, you have a lot of expectations, family-wise, right? Dad and older brother,
right?
Were both first-round draft picks. Brother by the Yankees.
Right.
That's rarefied air, buddy.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I remember, being a little kid, I didn't really understand too much. My dad coached at K-State, so I would always be around the guys, in the ballpark. I would go to the football games, all the athletic stuff, and it never really occurred to me like how big everything really was in the grand scheme of things because you're a kid. But as a child, my dad would, instill in us, we would have to throw short toss, medium toss, long toss, bullpens. Start day of rest, then start it over every week. The only time we got off, the only day we got off was Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve was family time. It was something we did, but we would be out there throwing in the snow. And
it hurts me to hear that because I'm a Thanksgiving guy.
Yeah.
You had to throw on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Throw on Thanksgiving, all that. And I remember the looks our neighbors would give us. I mean, they thought it was straight up child abuse. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like, well, why would you have these kids out in their conditions? Well, that was what it took. And my dad knew from a very young age that my brother, especially with baseball, he was breaking out. And by this time he was in like 7th or 8th grade, he was already hitting 90 miles an hour. And he got his first scholarship offer when he was in 7th grade. So like we knew things were changing. And by the time my brother and I are 3.5 years apart, so he was a senior in high school when I was a freshman, and I would just remember sitting in the stands and having every scout from every program in the MLB, and they would all have their guns out, and they would be sitting there behind the catcher, and one pitch would go by simultaneously, put it down, read it. Right, something.
So there's a lot of pressure there, like brothers pressure on you to do something in the family, right? Did you feel that?
Yeah, all the time.
Dad, I'm sure has high expectations.
That's the best way to put it. There was no way. There's no way to fail. Regardless. My dad always said, "Son, if you want to go be a tuba player, you better be the best damn tuba player in the world."
I get it.
And so that was what it was like. And then that's what kind of pushed me after my injury to get back into the game. And having no agent. No clue as to no contract offers, the CFL, NFL, everything dropped. And so I was like, well, what do you do? And I was like, and at the time I was working at a car dealership. I was taking photos of cars for pennies on the dollar. I had no clue what to do. So I went on Facebook and I went and checked my direct messages, and I had these arena football teams from all over the place that had been hitting me up.
Which one did you end up going with?
I went down, I went to the local Oklahoma Flying Aces is what it was called. It was 45. I ended up going there. It was 45 minutes.
OKC?
Enid, Oklahoma.
Enid, okay.
Yeah, Enid. I don't know if anyone.
My wife's from Oklahoma, so I get it. But
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Enid. It's out in the sticks. It's not a huge.
But there's not a lot of pure football players. These guys are 9-to-5ers.
Yes. Blue
collar guys and playing at night.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I remember walking in there, and you would see. History teachers or firefighters or, people who are just now kind of getting their feet wet with a pro type of, right. feel. But, you're talking, there's the lowest of the low league. You're talking about walls that are made out of plywood and sandbags. I mean, when I saw.
You did a whole season with them or was
no,
it quick?
It was one game. I got one game with that team. And we drove Sprinter vans 17 and a half hours over to Wyoming, played this game, and right as the game had ended, I got a phone call, and it was from a guy.
Hold up a second. This group of 9-to-5 guys with wives and kids and all that, you guys drive collectively to Wyoming to play a game?
They asked me to drive.
Do we not have any teams in Texas that could play you right next door?
Well, that's at the time, everybody thought I was washed. No,
I'm saying as a team.
Oh,
does that league not have closer games?
Yeah,
that's
crazy. Yeah, they do. But that's the thing with the arena is there are just so many new, especially at those low level leagues. They can pop out. They can do a tax write off on a team and pop a team out and Dodge City, Kansas really quick, and people won't bat an eye.
Don't give me ideas. So you played one game with them.
Yeah.
Then what happens? You get a call?
Yeah, I got a phone call from a guy by the name of Billy Back, and he's with the IFL.
Hey, Billy.
Hey, Billy. I got a team with the IFL. I got a contract with the IFL with a team called the Spokane Shock, and I just looked it up when I got the call, and all the guys, and I was still in the parking lot in the game from that we were just at in Wyoming, and the guys, I said, who called you? I said, Billy Back with Spokane Shock. Every single one of them said, JR, you're gone, bro. Leave. Get out of here.
Right.
And I was like, all right. So I left. And the IFL, a lot of people won't know this, but the IFL is the highest level of arena football. And
Indoor football league.
Indoor football league, yeah. And it's a little unorthodox, but it was a great next step for me. And so I went into that season, played 280 pounds dripping wet. They threw me in at center. I'd never snapped the ball in a game since I was a freshman in high school, so that was a huge adjustment for me. But the level of competition was pretty good. And I just learned over time how to do it. And then this past season, I signed a contract to go play with Billy again, but this time I got to play in Texas. And the Frisco Fighters in the IFL really liked that. That was like an exciting thing to be a part of. And it helped me learn a lot more and it got me exposure for the next level. And that's what these things should be. These should be stepping stones to get into higher leagues for the guys who undrafted free agents. And COVID messed a lot of guys up who weren't even injured in the first place.
And for those that might scoff when you say get exposure, if anyone has seen Turpin in the news lately, he formerly played for the Frisco Fighters, and he's more than likely going to easily make the Cowboy roster, I think, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, a guy like Turpin is exactly why you go into the indoor football league. He's the dream for every single one of us. He went in there, did the fan control, went over and did the USFL this past season and was all-star for them. And then you just go and see him make plays for the Dallas Cowboys in preseason, and it's like, I'm not surprised. I mean, the guy's really like that. He has he's explosive. He waits for blocks to develop. He just has a lot of areas where you're like, okay, you're seeing flashes of greatness going, and that's what you want.
And just judging from body language on TV, the other Cowboys seem to gravitate to this guy. So we'll see what happens with him.
Right.
Exactly. You were first team all conference in this league, right?
Yeah.
You get a little financial bump for that from the owner?
No, they definitely want me back. But my aspirations are, at the end of the day, if I'm not doing this to try and get into the NFL, there's no reason for me to keep trying to do this. And I've had the same vision since I was a kid, and I firmly believe that's the progression I'm working towards. I don't see myself playing in arena this upcoming season. There's some opportunities coming down the tunnel because of the accolades like that. And that was all I wanted out of the season. That was my expectation going into it. I knew halfway through the season, hey, I'm on track to do this shit. I've got to do this now the best that I can. And by the time I finished that last snap, I knew I had it.
So for any prospective agents out there, what are your stats, man? How tall are you? I mean, I know how tall you are, but tell them.
Yeah, so barefoot, I'm 6'5" and some change.
What do you weigh?
Yeah, about 310.
I've been hanging out with you for a couple weeks. We figured out that you and I don't know, we have a lot in common. There's a big age gap. I'm almost 50, but we feel like we're transparent with each other. On an honest scale of 1 to 10, what do you think your chances of getting in the NFL? How do you feel about it? And by the way, you are playing. Do you see yourself being a guard or a tackle?
I see myself being an interior lineman, but with being the new age offensive lineman, you have to be able to play multiple positions. You have to. You can't just be like, oh, I'm a left tackle or I'm a left guard. No one gives a shit. What you are. If when your name gets called and you're not ready to go, you're not worth a damn. So I think my chances to get into the NFL are slim. But it's possible. And that's all I need when it comes to this, because all I've been told is, you're not a drafted guy. You're behind on the ball. You're starting to get a little bit older, but I'm also making the great steps and progressions that I have to in this situation.
How old are you?
Well, I'm 25 going into 26. Now I'm not that old, but I'm not getting any younger. I'm at that teeter line. You see guys in the NFL right now who are 22. So, But as an offensive lineman, I'm kind of lucked out because I don't have to be that young. There's a lot of older guys in that league. But yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility. It's just going to be a lot more of a grind for me to get there, but I'm fully prepared to take that.
Well, listen, man, I'm ecstatic that you're part of the team, man. You guys got that zoomed in close enough? I don't want to have to bring it up in live. Like, zoom it out. My wife's going to send me divorce papers if she sees me that close up. I'm glad you're part of the team, right? I fully feel that you're going to take over and end up hosting this show permanently. And I'm excited to have you on. For those that are watching, don't leave just yet. We've got an interview that we did. He and I recorded. When did we do that? Monday? Tuesday. With the one and only DeMarcus Ware. Really very kind to him to come on. We're a startup. Matter of fact, DeMarcus is my dream host. I pitched him on it. Let's just say there's potential in the future for him to play more of a regular role in this. Guys, there's no one really doing what we're trying to do here in Dallas. Outside non-traditional media. So I'm glad you're part of the team. Glad to have you on. We're going to hit on some other topics. No one wants to hear us wax on forever. But, man, I love your story. I believe that you're going to be in the NFL because I've been around you the last couple of weeks, man, and I know what you're about. So another piece that we have coming up, I think I'll have to ask the guys, but I believe at 11 we are going to have Peter McNeely on live. Last Friday, a week ago today, was the 27th anniversary of Mike Tyson's first fight after release from prison. Peter McNeely was the gentleman he fought. I happen to know Peter. We have history together. We've worked on some stuff together. We're going to have him on. He's an interesting cat.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear about his life. And I look at Peter's life as two things, right? The dichotomy is BT and AT, before Tyson and after Tyson. What's happened since then? And I think a lot of you will be intrigued by his story and a lot of things about him. But I want to jump right into Cowboy news, man.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Oof, man. Tyron Smith. Speaking of tearing your quad right off the bone, so Tyron had a knee fracture, and it appears that he's torn his hamstring. He's out. He's out until at least December. Man, he's dealt with so many injuries over the years, and the thing is, like, I know Dak wants him there. He's protecting his blind side. I mean, it's just he's played. I think he's missed an average of 3 or 4 games for like the last 3 or 4 years. I have to get the exact on that, but they're saying he'll be back in December. Just because they say you come back. For those that don't know, I work in medical cells, and I've been in a lot of sports medicine surgeries. And anytime you're reattaching tendon to bone, man, that's rough. You experienced it yourself. Right. And so we talked about surgery. We know he's in trouble. We know it's who's going to replace him, right? Mm-hmm. And I heard an idea being tossed around last night that maybe we take Zach Martin from the right side of the line and move him on the left, right? Everyone that's a Cowboy fan and a lot of NFL people know that Zach Martin is the real deal. He's an elite interior lineman. But let me ask you this. I never played D1 football. Mm-hmm. I didn't even really play the last couple of years of high school. How easy is it to go from the right side to the left side as a lineman? And I would think a guy like Zach Martin, an all-pro, perennial all-pro, team favorite guy, can he make that transition like that?
I believe he can for sure. I don't think it's an easy transition for the typical offensive lineman, but when you're talking about guys who are Pro Bowlers, all-pro, the best of the best, you better believe when their name's called, they'll go play at any position on that front. And a guy like him, he's going to be able to do exactly what he's asked of. With all the plaguing injuries and things like that, there's a lot of young talent coming down the pipe, but he's got experience, and I don't doubt that he can fill in those shoes, at least until we get a better idea of how long Smith is going to be out for, if it's even a possibility of him coming back this season. I mean, that he not only does he have to get his health back and make sure he's able to do normal functions, but he's also got to get his strength back. You can't be light in the ass when you're playing up front.
Yeah, I looked it up. 3 games, missed an average of 3 games this season since 2016. It's one of those things that crushes you as a fan of the Cowboys, that this guy is so good and the ceiling is so high. And it reminds me, unfortunately, of Sean Lee. right? Oft injured. There's a picture of Zach Martin. I mean, where would we be without him?
Right.
He's a great player. So we are going to we're going to see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a rough situation for the Cowboys. They're going to have to find somebody. They've got a couple guys that are in the pipeline, some 3 and 4 year guys who've been there, who've taken reps. But, man, that's a big gap to fill because as a lineman, I would think, hey, not only am I replacing like a team legend here, I'm also protecting Dak's blind side. He's coming off, that horrible injury a couple years ago. It's got to weigh heavily on these guys. A lot of pressure.
Yeah,
going on, right?
I mean, it's the Dallas Cowboys. We have to have everybody has high expectations for America's team. Even if you don't like the Cowboys, they're relevant. Everybody's talking about them.
Right.
So, yeah, of course the expectations are high. But, pressure makes diamonds or it bursts pipes. So we're going to find out pretty quick.
I don't know how many guys or how many people that we have on watching right now. I think we're going to go. Let's go to that DeMarcus Ware segment. Put it on. We're going to take a quick break, and the guys are going to air this segment. It's about 14, 15 minutes long. You're going to want to watch it. DeMarcus is the man, and I think we asked him some pretty good questions. Guys, I want to welcome former Dallas Cowboy, Super Bowl winning player with the Denver Broncos, an all-time great guy, DeMarcus Ware, to the show. DeMarcus, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you guys for inviting me on, man. I'm excited to be on the show and being the first time with you guys, man. I think it's going to be great.
I love it. So I want to get right into the questions because it's raining in Dallas. If you guys can't see in the background, we all have got things to do. You played a long time with the Cowboys and you won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. I can list off a ton of names on there, but you played with some really big players, a lot of big personalities. Could you narrow it down to who your favorite all-time teammate was and maybe why?
I think it's one of those things, man. You can look at phenomenal players. I mean, Jason Witten, Tony Romo, Larry Allen. I mean, you can name so many other the greats that I played with, Von Miller. But to me, it's like the people that are with you on the field, but also off the field, but also, again, after you retire, those are your friends. Those are the people that, stick to you like glue. And my guy's been Brady James. I mean, we're like brothers. We're close, man. And when I first came in, he mentored me, and we've been buds ever since.
I honestly never would have guessed that answer. I love it. And that's why we have you on here today. I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. I'm almost 50. I know full well who all the guys you played with were. That's a great answer, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah. I think that's huge. I mean, that type of thing when we get to talk and ask these questions, like, we don't understand all the intricacies, the ins and outs of what makes a locker room, right? So that is great to hear. I do have another question. As a former Rainbow Warrior myself, a University of Hawaii alum, Aloha Stadium, very near and dear to my heart. I have the best memories I have in college football is at that stadium. Now, you being a 9-time Pro Bowler, I wanted to ask you, what was your experience like, from start to finish, taking that trip overseas, experiencing the locals and just Oahu in general, what was that like for you when you got a chance to go over there?
You know what? Hawaii was like that place that you can go to when you always think about vacation, when you think about relaxing, when you think about rejuvenation, right? And we got that every single time we went out there for the Pro Bowl. And guess what? It hasn't been the same since. We can go to Florida, we can go to Arizona, we can go to Vegas, but there's nothing like you saying the Rainbow State. There's nothing like it. So to be able to play out there 9 times and and be on an all-star team and represent the NFL out there in my, Dallas Cowboys or Denver Broncos, it was great, man. And I wish I can get back out there and we can do the same thing again.
I'm sure they'd be looking forward to seeing you anytime out there in the 808 State, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring it back over to Randall.
One thing that I find interesting, DeMarcus, and you and I have talked about this last time we were on, I don't see you anywhere with guys asking you your unadulterated opinion on the Cowboys. And who can speak better on the Cowboys than a former all-time great? So no sugarcoating here. We're all in Dallas.
Yeah.
How far can the Cowboys take it this year? And will we be NFC East champs?
I think we can be NFC champs, NFC East champs, but it's going to take a little bit more for us to get deeper in the playoffs. From my standpoint, I see a couple of offense and defensive linemen that need to be, filled in and solidified. I mean, that's where it starts at. It starts at in the trenches. And right now we've got a couple of young guys in there. Some are playing guard, some are playing, right tackle. We got to make sure we solidify those lines because we talk about feeding Zeke, right? We talk about running the football. We got to run the football to open up, for the wide receivers. We got a couple guys hurt with CD and a couple other guys, and we got to get everybody back healthy. I think that we can win the NFC East, but we've done that plenty of times. And, I'm tired of us just winning the NFC East. That's nothing, right? I mean, that's a great little, trophy. I want to win it all. And to win it all, we got to have everything in place, all the guys on board. And I know that we have that, but it's going to take us to dig deep this season with what we have to see to where we want to be.
How involved are you still, just in general, with the Cowboys organization? Are you got a open door policy at all time? You can go into practice, you can do whatever you want, or do you kind of just keep to yourself on that?
It's an open door policy. I can go over there anytime I want to, but I talk to a lot of the guys outside, like either DeMarcus Lawrence or Michael Parsons or, any of the other guys with Smith, the younger guy coming in, the guard, he's playing guard now, the young rookie first-round draft pick. But I mentor the guys outside of here. They want to do a little bit of training in the offseason. I do that with them. And then I go over there and just keep tabs on them. It's making sure they're doing what they need to do. But it's an open door policy with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones always treats us right in the Jones family. So it's great to, be able to go in there and still have a staple in that organization.
Yeah, not only do you have Cowboys over, you've got some guys that are well-known and major guys across the NFL that come into Frisco or Dallas, wherever you're at, to get some DeMarcus Ware love, right? I've seen your social media. There's some big guys coming in town.
Yeah, a couple of the guys that, that usually come in during the off season. It was fun to do some stuff with Myles Garrett, Von Miller. He comes by, just to name a few. A lot of the pass rushers. We had a pass rush summit where Aaron Donald has come by, just to name a few guys. But it's really cool to have those guys in-house training, but learning film, the mentality, where they can, heighten their toolbox, add more into their toolbox for the season. But then who are they for their team? Are they that leader, or are they a guy that's just going to sit back? And I feel like I create those leaders when they leave from me and they go and impact their teams like they couldn't.
I love it. Jake, you got another one you want to ask him?
Yeah. Okay. So now I understand you're the elite of the elite. You were an 11th pick overall. Even in college, you had tremendous accolades. You were a success story all the way through. But kind of switching gears on that, I still feel like you have a lot of advice to give on the underdog. And for someone in my situation, I'm climbing. I'm climbing at the, chomping at the bit, trying to get the next opportunity. And, whether it be with the new leagues, the CFL, XFL, USFL, everything like that that's going on, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to that undrafted free agent, that guy trying to make it out of the mud doing something? What would you tell him trying to transition into that higher league, that higher level of thinking, that higher play?
I think that, like you were saying, like the underdog, the guy that's trying to get to that next level, don't give up on your identity, because sometimes you will get the door closed on you more than not, and you start trying to change things. You start trying to change, okay, I need to be faster, I need to be stronger, I need to be, a certain guy. You're already at the right place. But the doors that open up for you, make sure you utilize all of those things, whatever it might be, because you can maybe shoot one thing to the side, and that's your opportunity to get you to that next level to where you need to be. I mean, I started off as an underdog. I was a wide receiver, about 185 pounds when I got a scholarship at Troy. And the rest is history. I grew 3 inches and I gained 60 pounds. But I've always been considered the underdog. You know, starting at outside linebacker, actually starting at defensive end, soaking wet 195 pounds at Troy, and then all of a sudden moving to a whole nother position with the Dallas Cowboys. There was still skepticism of, can he play? So you're going to get that no matter if you're a first round draft pick or coming from a small school, you're going to get that. But for me, don't change your identity and you keep that dog. The underdog always have that bite. You can smile all day. I can smile all day. I can see it in you. But it's one of those things that where when it's time to shine, nobody's going to outshine you because you know what it feels like to be in the dark. You know what it feels like. And when that light, you get just a little glimmer of that light, you're going to take more advantage of it than any of those other guys.
I appreciate that. That sounds like some amazing advice.
Yeah, I like when he speaks on the dog inside you, because I actually lived down in that Auburn, Alabama, Fort Benning area back in the day, and most people don't realize Auburn University, because it's unique. It's actually in the town of the same name. You don't have that a lot, and so if you know the true story behind DeMarcus, he went to high school there. They didn't want him, right? He's too little, so he goes up the road. And so for those that are watching, going, DeMarcus has never been an underdog. I encourage you to find out the beginning, the genesis of his story. Guy's always been an underdog since day one. So I love what you said.
Always, man. I mean, I worked in a chicken coop. I sold Cokes at Auburn University when they didn't want me. I saw the kids, go across the field and get those scholarships and being able to play for a team that I wanted to play for. But I got one opportunity, which was at Troy University, and they just went to Division I. And they said to Marcus, I know you play wide receiver, but we're going to put you at defensive end. And I'm like, what? Defensive end? And I started playing down there, and I got crushed for 2 years. I got one opportunity when one guy got hurt, and I got into Nebraska game, and I had about 2 sacks. And they said, let him play against UAB. And I played against somebody my size. And that's when I had about 14 tackles, 4 sacks, and about 6 tackles for a loss in that game. And the rest is history. They said, leave him out there. We don't care his size, but we know that his bite, just like you just talked about, his bite is bigger than any one of these other guys, and he's going to get the job done.
I love that story. And you had a pretty good teammate that went on the other end, right? Went on to have a pretty good NFL career. And I'm so surprised that more people don't know that story around. When I went, it was called Troy State. When you went, it was Troy. It's Troy now. Did you have another question for him?
Yeah,
we're getting close to our 15 minutes.
I did. I was curious because I've been seeing some things, especially on. And I'll switch back over to the Cowboys real quick. I was seeing some things. Obviously, injury is something we're trying to get out of moving into the regular season. But on a positive note, what are you most excited for the Cowboys this year? Like what's jumping out at you that's worth talking about?
Micah Parsons, just say.
Yeah. I mean, Micah Parsons, I'm always excited to see that guy play. But it's one of those things where, as a leader, and you have 90 new guys come in, how are they going to gel together? I mean, I saw the first game, I saw the second game, third game, but I'm talking about that first preseason game and on from there. How are they going to battle in that Coliseum that they call, Jerryland over there? That's what I want to see in that third and fourth quarter. I want to see that grit that they get in the OTAs and the minicamp. I want to see them actually bring that out as a team, offense and defensively, and just go out there and ball. That's what I'm excited for. I know that they can ball because I see it. So
yeah, they got the guys.
Oh, they got the guys. It's not just the names; they got the guys. I just want to see them go out there and ball and beat people.
Yeah. And once they click, it's over with. I'm right there with you. I'm a firm believer in the Cowboys. I want them to succeed. I always look at them as America's team, so it's really frustrating from time to time. High expectations. No doubt. This year, I'm going to keep the expectations high because I believe in the Cowboys,
I do too. I'm an avid fan. Listen, I know I played for the Dallas Cowboys and did some great things there, but now I am a fan. So just as mad as you get, I get too, because I also have some insight on the guys, on where they are, their mentalities, why they're not doing what they're doing. And I'm looking at them like, y'all better win this football game. I have that same feeling.
I believe it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have that same feeling. I'm of the generation that the Cowboys won the majority of their Super Bowls when I was still back in high school. And that's the worst thing that can happen to a guy, right? Because you set the tone for me when I'm 18 that we're just going to win every year. And then there's been no Super Bowls since then. But I'll end it kind of on this from my end. I follow you on social media, and I've been a fan of yours for years. I know what kind of guy you are. You're steeped in your faith. You are a dog, like you said. Everyone knows it. But you're not a complainer. So I'll do the complaining.
Yeah.
Absolutely slap in the face, blown away. We talked about it. When I looked at that Hall of Fame potential list when it first came out, whether I'm a Cowboy fan or not, most people will agree you were the brightest shining star on that whole list. I mean, look at the sack total, 138.5. Look at all the things you did. As somebody who is so competitive, right? What I say on your behalf as a fan, some other guy may counter with it, but you, what are the initial thoughts that go through? Because I know there are people in your ear telling you like you're in no matter what.
You know,
I'm blown away.
A lot of people told me that DeMarcus, you're in, and to be honest with you, I didn't believe it. The reason why I didn't believe it is I still had that underdog mentality. I've never been given first ever, nothing in my life. I've always had to work for it. So for me to say that you are first ballot Hall of Famer, yes, I am deserving of that when you look at everything on the paper. But I knew myself that I wasn't going to make it last year. Like I knew it because I said it's not part of my story. My story has never given me first. It's always made me work more for what and who I am. So now this is an opportunity for me to really solidify that story. And talking to the people that, you know what, I'm not deserving of first. But guess what? I got first in my heart no matter what, because God's in my life. So I always look at it like that. And when that time comes, that time comes.
Yeah, and as a fan of yours and somebody who follows you, right, I knew that was going to be your answer. So again, like I said, let the guys like me throw around the mud about I can't believe it, just totally blown away. And even my grandpa's like, you got to be shitting me. Are you kidding me right now? What's going on? But next year's your year. We'll leave it at that, right? You got one more question?
I'll be the one to say you got snubbed, man. That's what.
You know what? I will just stay back. I'll just stay back. Yeah. Just be all right.
We saw Marcus on. We're neophytes. We're new to this, and people ask me all the time, like, "Man, you're almost 50. Like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "It's a hobby," but I think we've taken it to the next level. Kudos to DeMarcus for joining a startup and coming on, man. Love the guy. I told him when I went after his manager to try to get him to come on here and be a co-host. I said, he's a triple threat. He's got the physical stature and the looks, right? Mm-hmm. And he's got the charisma.
Yeah.
With that looks goes that great $1 million smile he has. And here's a term a lot of you young guys, man, I know he's got the Rolodex, which is like a modern day address book. Like he can literally pick up the phone. He was in here hosting and call everyone from the sheriff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Peyton Manning all the way down to the equipment manager at the Cowboys and get some inside scoop. He's dialed in. He's got Myles Garrett, as you guys heard, and Micah Parsons, guys coming in town, trying to glean some tips from him. It would be a dream for me and you if he ends up coming and to be even a semi-regular host. Mm-hmm. But again, him not getting the nod, it's absolute slap in the face. He's too humble to say it or too nice. He got screwed on the Hall of Fame, man. Yeah. I look at that list and nothing against those other guys. Some of those guys were very deserving, if not all of them. But DeMarcus was the shining light in that whole group. I mean, we're looking at, he's a 9-time Pro Bowler. He had 138 sacks. He won a Super Bowl. He played for some Cowboy teams that were really good. Didn't get a Super Bowl with us. But even the Cowboy hater, I think Stephen A. Smith, who was here yesterday, and if you guys haven't checked out our TikTok, go look at the content that JR and Tyler went out and got yesterday here at the Star. First Take was in town.
It was nuts. It was packed out. We had cars moving in from Dallas all over the place. We were I knew it was bad because I train over there, and there was a whole parking lot that's empty every time I'm over there, and it was packed out. Walking in there, Cowboys fans, all walks of life.
Were people booing Stephen A. when he came out?
Oh yeah. The second he walked out there, it was funny because he had a Cowboys jersey on. But I mean, people were letting him have it, and even Jerry Jones was kind of getting after him a little bit. Called him a fraud, told him he was really a Cowboys fan secretly deep down. Which I think, as far as conspiracy theories go, like, he's had a lot of success shitting on the Cowboys, but I also think, maybe that could be, maybe deep down he actually does enjoy the Cowboys just a little bit.
I think it's funny because, you're right. A big part of his career and a big part of his social media impression. Sorry, I'm trying to get a link to St. Peter. A big part of his whole, aura for him is Cowboy hate. He loves to get on after we lose, and everybody's seen him before. I personally don't watch the show. I've seen enough of those antics before, and so I've kind of pivoted on to something else. Stephen A., he's found his niche, and he makes a shitload more money than we do doing it, so he's doing something right. And he played it off perfectly coming out here where he's hated. I mean, I'd like to know how many people watched that yesterday. Right. I mean, their ratings were through the roof.
Oh, I'd imagine. Yeah, I mean, they flew in a freaking helicopter. Stephen A. Smith and Jerry Jones. I mean, it's just such a big moment. The fact that you can even get those guys in a room together and just talk story like that, like it's a very interesting dynamic. And I was pumped just seeing it. I kind of had goosebumps myself.
Yeah, while we were playing that video from earlier in the week, the interview, I went live on TikTok to give some of our guys a view of the studio. We talked about a pretty cool topic on there of the current crop of NFL players, right? Let's focus on the media darlings, those skill players that everybody's talking about, ESPN. Who in the league that's making some waves right now that you played against? Maybe not just defensive players, like who are some of the offensive guys? Because you played in some bowl games.
Yeah.
I mean, Zach Wilson, you brought that up.
Right.
Let's talk about him.
Yeah. Zach Wilson, obviously everybody loves, Zach's a hot topic right now. But I did have a chance to play against him in college, and he's a great player. I love what he did for BYU. I think he's, dynamic. He's a playmaker. He's a leader. People respect him. I was able to play against him, and we ended up winning that bowl game in 2019, which was really great for our program. I never really knew how far his potential was or his draft stock at the time. I didn't really think about it when we were playing him. And I hope the best for him, but my expectations were pretty minimal for what he was going to produce. And so I still am very curious to see how, in the next 2 or 3 years, what it's going to look like at him being a quarterback in the NFL, and especially, being the face of the team. So I'm very curious with that as well. I was able to play Josh Allen. He was over with Wyoming, and when he played us, he didn't really do too well. I mean, I think he went maybe 7 for 20 something. I'll have to look back at it.
Was it on him or was it on the supporting cast?
No, he was throwing some wild balls that game. I mean, there was nothing special. When you look at his college highlights, you won't see any highlight of him against us. And I don't know if it was just a fluke game or whatever, but I remember there was a little bit of hype around him because his size. He already looked like he was a pro when he was in college for his size. But I will say I kind of ate my words a little bit because this dude has been doing nothing but performing, and he's making a contention for being an elite of the elites quarterbacks here in the NFL.
So, he's a favorite right now for MVP to win the Super Bowl, probably Super Bowl MVP. I don't like the term hot take, but I'm going to say this: Josh Allen is the man, right?
Right.
I've seen him run and play. I'm going to go out and say I think that career-wise, that Herbert, the Chargers, is going to have a better year this year than Josh Allen, and is going to have a better career. I've said it to 10 different people, and they're all like, there's no way.
You're right.
There's
I'm sure
way.
you got a lot of people that'll tell you no way.
I get it, right? But if Josh Allen pulls off what everyone thinks he's going to, it's going to be one of the greatest stories of all time because
For sure.
he went to Wyoming. No one recruited him. I think he actually basically pestered them into recruiting him, right?
Right.
It's an interesting story. Herbert, dude's got a cannon on him, man.
Right. And I think switching gears though with another guy that I played against that I'm what I'm seeing on tape right now makes a lot of sense is Josh Rosen. I played against Josh Rosen at UCLA, and no offense to Josh Rosen as a person, but I never saw anything huge with that guy. I always felt that there was a bit of an overrated feeling with him at UCLA, and so the fact that he's getting his chance over here with the Browns, he's in a situation where he should be able to make something happen, at least try and get that third string quarterback. You got your starter who's out, you're competing for that next job, but he's not doing everything that he needs to. He went 7 for 20 against the Eagles in throws, and he looks very impatient in the pocket, kind of erratic. So there's going to be a lot of growth there for me to even think that he's going to. I mean, there's a chance that he may not even be on the roster, coming very soon. So.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. But you know how this shit goes, right? NFL, it's almost like a Hollywood script. Deshaun Watson's out for 11 games,
right?
Okay, he comes back, and the week he comes back, they're playing. Guess who? The Texans, right? So of course, naturally, the Browns want him to come back and play, and NFL wants him to play, right? That's a ratings thing. It's crossed my mind that I know it's crazy. And again, I don't like the term hot take. Watch the Browns be in fucking playoff contention when it's time for him to come back and they don't take Rosen out.
Oh, man.
Well, how crazy would that be?
I'm going to tell you, I don't find that to be in the realm of possibility.
Me either. But
that's a hot take.
Don't you find it a little odd, though, that Sean happens to be coming back the week he's playing the team that he left? I mean,
obviously, it's an 11-game suspension.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Come on,
Of course, there's politics involved. That's all it is.
But wouldn't it be hilarious if Rosen plays out of his mind? He comes back, and now we've got another narrative going on in Cleveland. Yes, it's unlikely. It is very unlikely. But wouldn't it be hilarious?
It'd be hilarious, but in a very, I don't know.
For the record, Rosen, I'm pulling for you.
Yeah, Rosen, seriously, if you end up watching this, man, I hope the best for you. I really do. I just don't think if I was a betting man, I would not say Rosen is going to be in much of discussion for us in this upcoming season.
Well, good thing is that we only have a few people watching us, so I'm not going to get a bunch of ridicule online, but nothing surprises me anymore in life or sports. It seems like there's such a theater of entertainment and things that happen, and we always want to focus around the main players. Tom Cruise is Tom Brady. You'll have other couple guys, Ryan Gosling. They'll throw a little love to Ryan Gosling or these other actors, these big movies. That's what I feel like it's like, right? You need your mainstay and you need some of your other quarterbacks. I'm a Mahomes fan. Mahomes grew up out in East Texas. I know his mother. Used to see them back in the day. I want him to succeed. What's going to happen with the Chiefs now that Tyreek's gone? I don't know. I want the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens, right?
You got a little bit biased,
can't be any that story can't be any crazier than me suggesting Rosen.
You think
it's 10-1 when Deshaun comes back?
I don't honestly. It's not much of. I still don't think it's comparable. I would still, if I was betting, if the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl, or Josh Rosen going and taking a starting spot up and then not being pulled out by the time Watson comes back, I'm taking the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. I just got to be honest with you. Even with all the plaguing injuries and things that Jerry Jones has going on over there, I still have more faith in them than I would in the Browns and in Rosen.
I'm going to bookend that with, think about this. RJ Ochoa, who has been a guest on a recorded segment we have, Blogging the Boys. I like a lot of what RJ, I agree with a lot with what RJ says. I saw a tweet from him last night, and we all know these things, but you don't think about it when you put them all together. The Dallas Cowboys will be without 5 consensus starters from last season when they suit up week 1 against the Tampa Bay Bucks. All right. I'm going to give you a couple easy ones and see if you can plug in the rest. Okay. Week 1, right? Doesn't mean some of these have not left the team. Michael Gallup, La'el Collins, and Connor Williams. Who are the other 2 of those 5? A fellow we talked about earlier won't be there week 1.
Yeah, Tyron Smith, and then
receiving core.
James Washington.
Amari was traded.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you signed with You know, he's up there. He's going to be catching passes from your boy, right?
Right.
So think about it. Tyron Smith, Connor Williams, Lyle Collins, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, all good players. They're not going to be starting week one with the Cowboys when they were there last year.
Right.
But it feels like maybe it's one of those crazy years where we still make a run. There's a lot of Dak haters. I have people within my own circle that are Romo through and through. They love Romo. I know we in the group text, they love Romo. Romo plays in the Texas State Open out in Tyler. And these are 45, 50-year-old men. They're there. They want an autograph, right? They love Romo. I get it. I'm a Dak guy. I've been a Dak guy since Mississippi State. I don't even root for that school.
Right.
All roads lead through Dak. And I'm not just saying that because we want you to come in, Dak.
Yeah, please.
Hint,
That'd
hint.
be awesome.
Hint, hint. I really believe in there's an aura from the guy, right?
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Like,
locker room dude,
you
for
see
sure.
all these guys that are really good, public persona, and they say all the right things, and then 5 years after they retire, they hear this guy was a massive prick or whatever. That's not the case with Dak, guarantee you. You know, I saw him talk to him at a Mavs game.
Right.
It was authentic, and he was talking about different things. I can just tell, right? Doesn't mean he's going to win the Super Bowl. He is our best chance. He is the guy to me that we need to go win the Super Bowl.
Is what I would
Has
call.
Peter joined on yet?
I would also call him somewhat of a glue guy. Yeah, that's the reference I would use too. Is not only does he have that dog, and he's a really talented player, but he is glue. We're gonna, like you said, we're gonna go where Dak goes, and that's gonna be a huge factor for the Cowboys.
Let's compare him to Baker, for example, right?
Okay.
The knock on Baker is he's not mature. I don't know. I mean, I got a lot of friends that are OU fans. We're not that far from Norman. But if you look at Baker compared to Dak, right, I think that the locker room wholly supports Dak and think he's the guy and believe, and they've seen him come back from injury, and they've seen very prolific offense.
Yeah.
Most powerful offense, a couple seasons in a row, points, scoring, all that thing. We need some help. If CD misses any time, we will be in trouble.
Yeah.
But these guys are all professionals. We've had years where we had fully loaded and didn't do shit.
Right.
So who knows? You heard DeMarcus say, winning the NFC East isn't good enough anymore.
No.
And it's not going to be easy this year. The Eagles are coming out, right? I think Hurts will have a good year. Changing the subject for a moment. Do we have Peter? Is Peter in the waiting room? So to set this up, we did a TikTok and we talked about Peter earlier the week, and I'm looking at my phone really, but I'm looking up here. So Peter fought Mike Tyson. A lot of the younger generation, they just know Mike on his podcast now, and that he's a media personality, right? But back in the day, Mike Tyson was the hottest ticket on the planet, right? He's Tiger Woods before Tiger Woods. Everyone wanted to watch him. Goes away to prison for a few years for rape, convicted, comes out. Speculation that George Foreman was the next big fight.
Right.
And that didn't happen. I think, Don King and the guys wanted to ease him back into it.
Absolutely.
So they pick a journeyman fighter, Medfield, Mass fighter.
Hurricane Pete.
Hurricane Peter McNeely. And Peter, he fought some guys. Nobody on the level of Tyson, right? But you can't bring Tyson. He's been I don't still to this day have never heard if he was working out when he's in there, if he was meditating.
He looked like it.
If he's, maybe he's doing, but was he boxing? There's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So they bring him out. He fights Peter. I was in the Army and then in Fort Benning and drove an hour away to sit in a bar for 3 hours in the floor. Bunch of Auburn frat guys running around. Had to sit in the floor with my Army buddies. I don't remember who the undercard was or whatever. And the guy lasted basically a minute. And he always stuck with me. So I flew him out to Dallas a couple years ago. We were doing basically a mini doc series with him, a video podcast, what have you. We had some technical difficulties, and in hindsight, we screwed it all up. So he went back home. Now's the time to bring it back, because 27 years ago, a week ago Friday, is when he fought. And I'd like for some of you guys to hear some of what Peter has to say. Is he with us yet? Let me text him again. We talked to him last night.
Yeah.
And you've researched the fight, and you said it, but it's just a unique thing for him because, Tyson stayed relevant. Peter fights and loses, and then he disappears.
Off the face.
And it really didn't have a ton to do with losing. Buster Douglas beat him, and then he's an afterthought pretty soon after that, right?
Right.
I'm excited to talk to Peter.
Yeah, I am too. I think his story is pretty interesting to have, a no-name guy essentially at the time come in and fight the world's greatest. And that's what it was. And even in the press conferences, you can see, Pete did everything he could to sell himself in that fight. But at the same time, man, if the media is not taking you seriously, if the people aren't taking you seriously, it's just it's an uphill battle from there. And I feel like that was what he was fighting the whole time. Now the fight between him and Mike ended pretty quick. You have, I believe it was 83 seconds. And, in the first 10 seconds, Mike dropped him, got him back up. 70 seconds later, dropped him again. This corner throws in the towel like, hey, man, we're not going to do this. This isn't good. And obviously he has that iconic line, you got a big dump in your pants, and which is crazy for me because in my generation, I'm 25. So TikTok and, short, quick video snippets and things like that are super relevant. And what was crazy with Pete is I had seen this guy do that interview, and a TikTok or something had surfaced maybe about a year ago. And I never thought to myself, boy, I'm about to talk to this guy or interview this guy. And so when we spoke to him yesterday, it was just like, it was a huge eye opener because the last time I'd seen anything about him, he was in the best shape of his life. And, time is different for everybody.
Sorry, I'm looking away. Peter just texted me. I texted him the link again. He said he's ready to come on.
All right.
I hear you. Let me message him again. While we're doing that downtime, talk about, you text me earlier. There is a huge football game tonight I think you're wanting to go watch. Texas high school football.
Yeah, so we got Allen against John Bosco. In my opinion, this is obviously the most anticipated high school football game of the year. Very big. It's basically an exhibition game. You've got a Cali team coming over to Texas, and if you've ever seen Texas high school football, it's just different. Okay, the capacity, the love for the game.
Are they playing this game in Allen or neutral?
They're playing over in Allen.
Which is probably the most expensive high school complex in the country at the time, $80 million. I know that shocks people outside of here, but what was even crazier is they had to shut it down for a while after they had some structural issues. I think there was maybe even some thought that, hey, maybe we can't play here for a while, a long time. Maybe we got to do some work. One of our producers, he's not here today. Isaac went to high school in Allen. Isaac's out handling some personal business today. JR and I wanted to tell you, Isaac, you're in our thoughts. So hope to have you back soon. Thinking about you, man.
Thinking about you, brother. Yeah, we've got some exciting stuff going in the pipeline with the high school. Texas high school football is very exciting. I'm pumped. I'm an Oklahoma native myself. So
where'd you go to high school?
I went to Edmond Santa Fe. So we were 6A high school. We weren't small by any means, but Oklahoma 6A is a Texas 5A. So being able just seeing this environment, like our home games before we got everything's new well after I was there. But when I was there, we were playing our games at a D2 field at UCO, University of Central Oklahoma, at Watland Stadium. And it was awesome. I mean, Friday Night Lights is unbelievable. You got thousands of people in your hometown. At the time we had 3 high schools, and anytime one of us played, you could hear crowds from high school games, several blocks down the road. You could feel the lights, like you could see the reflection of the lights in the sky from forever. I mean, it's a spectacle. And Edmond's not a small town by any means, but it brings a place together. And that's what football is in the community, especially in the Midwest, but Texas especially, that's just a completely different environment.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Edmond is basically,
basically
Mesquite to Dallas, right? Not as far as overall, but I'm saying proximity. It's right. It's even closer actually. And you have 3 high schools there, a 6A,
right?
And there's a 4A,
and they're trying to build another one.
It's crazy. Everybody wants to be there, right?
Blows my mind. That's
Peter's with us.
Awesome.
Hey guys, for those guys watching, you heard me say this before. Peter, can you hear me, Peter?
I can hear you.
So I'm going to take a quick second. For those who heard us say earlier, Peter fought Mike Tyson. This is Mike's first fight after prison. Peter and I have been friends for a couple of years. Peter, I know you're busy. You're in. Are you in Boston today, or are you actually in Midfield?
I'm a little north of Boston. I'm in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
So most of the people we've educated on your fight with Tyson back in the day. So we got a couple quick questions for you. I know the answers to these, but I don't think JR does. How much money did you make on that fight? What was your purse?
For the fight, we made $600,000.
You say we, you're talking about your team.
$600,000. The whole team. And
how much did you get though?
Immediately after the fight, we did 2 commercials. We did one in Universal Studios in Hollywood, in LA. And I said, Vinny, what's a commercial for? He goes, I don't know, some computer thing. And little did we know, it was AOL, America Online.
And what year was this again? Remind me, was it 97?
Was
it 96? 95.
It was September 95.
And that was, you told me offline, that was like AOL's first commercial, right?
I was one of the first. There might have been others. I don't know if my particular commercial was first, but it aired. It was a 15-second commercial, and then the more famous one, Pizza Hut, was a 30-second commercial, and that we filmed in San Francisco.
And so when you say $600,000, you're including what you got paid for those commercials, right?
No. The fight was $600,000, and when it was all said and done, when we went to, we basically grossed, a little under $1 million.
Nice.
Gross.
I know JR's chomping to ask a couple questions. JR, fire away at my guy Peter here.
What's going on, Hurricane Pete? How are you, man? You doing well?
Hi, JR.
So let me ask you something. At the time when you took the fight on with Mike, now were there any pre-discussions or obviously you had mentioned before that you had spoke with him after the fight, but before the fight had happened, what was your initial interactions with him leading up to the fight itself?
There was none. The day we signed the contract for the fight, the first week of May '95, was a big press conference at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. So, and the MGM Grand had just been built like less than a year earlier. So, and Don King got Mike all these contracts with different, and one of them was with the MGM Grand, that whatever fights he fought would be there. And, everybody knows, to bring in the people, bring in, rent rooms, eat, and in the end, gamble. But getting back to your question, there was no interaction between me and Mike. That day when we both met the center of the stage. We signed the contract. He looked me right in the eye and he stuck out his hand and he said, "Good luck." And you know what? I respected that,
Nice. Yeah.
because he was respectful.
Hey, Peter, of the things that happened during the fight, everyone knows what Tyson was capable of, right? But you were in the ring with him. What was the most impressive? Speed or the power or all the above?
It was a combination. Obviously, in the end, speed equals power. But I mean, he was blinding fast, blinding speed. Like what? I'm on the cameras. And what happened?
I love your honesty. I'm on the canvas. What happened?
Yeah.
Let me ask you. Oh, sorry. Let me ask you something.
The second knockdown, which helped end the fight, he caught me with his best punch, the uppercut. And the uppercut, point blank on my chin. I went down on my face, and I'm lucky I got up. A lot
And that's
of
why Vinny threw in the towel.
I got up, and I have films today. My oldest brother Tom, at the time, was one of the head producers of all sports on ESPN. Tom McNeely III, and he helped get me this film from Showtime Championship Boxing through a friend of his who was working for Showtime Championship Boxing. I can't remember their name, but the guy's father was former mayor of New York City. David Dinkins Jr. worked with my brother at ESPN back in the day. So Dinkins Jr. sent my brother Tom a film of all the close-up angles. And I've got that on DVD today, and it's it's something to see, man. It's really it's I don't watch it often, but when a friend or some here that says to me, "Hey Pete, can we see the Tyson fight?" Sure. I got a great DVD right here. So that's the one I saw.
Interesting. I thought it was interesting when you did come to Dallas with me. It was a little bit before the pandemic, JR. I took him down to a boxing gym in Dallas. He didn't know anyone there. And we went in the door. And remember, Peter, the young man was probably 25, and he called Peter out by name, just seeing him for 3 seconds. And I think I can say this without embarrassing. I mean, it was an emotional moment for Peter, right? You got recognized by a young guy. We went in, walked around. There's a Texas Golden Gloves champ training in there. Turns out the trainer is an old school guy. Turns around and goes, "Hey, what's up, Peter?" They had been on the same circuit, and then you remembered him, and he got him in the ring. It was a cool moment.
Even I couldn't believe that one. We walked into Judy like, "Peter, hey, Peter McNeely, how you doing?"
The sports world is just so small, like you just be so shocked.
The boxing world especially.
Yeah, exactly.
The boxing world is a tight community of people that will help each other.
That's awesome.
Peter, I wanted to bring this up. I told you this before. I came into that initial meeting and interview with you. In my mind, the dichotomy was thinking, BT and then AT for your life, before Tyson and after Tyson. Anybody that wants to research your life before Tyson on there, you actually were very deserving of that title, of that fight, and you went in and did your thing. I know what happened after the fight, but what's going on with you currently? Like, and we've talked about it pretty candidly in person. What's your current station in life as far as your health goes?
My health is great. I still go to my local boxing gym in Lawrence, Intense Boxing Gym, and I moved up here. I'm up here near Lowell, Mass. I'm a little north of Lowell, the home of Mickey Ward. But my whole life I lived in Norfolk County. And now I'm way up in Essex County, and I don't know very many people around here. But a guy that became, other than my beautiful wife, Anna Rita, we moved up here and we together didn't know anybody. And so he has become a great friend. I called the local boxing gym in Lawrence, and Jose Nino Madera answered the phone. I said, yeah, this is Peter McNeely, but I want to come. I live up here now. I want to come. Oh, great, come on in. We'd love to have you. So for whatever reason, I didn't show up. I failed to go. So a year later, I call up, and he was like, yeah, whatever, Peter,
A year later,
and I showed up. I
want to know, Peter. I
showed up an hour later, and that guy has become our best friend up here. Nino, the best.
I love it, man. That's relationships are everything, and you're an important part of the boxing world up there. I want to know what can JR and I do for you? We want to get you. I think you deserve to be on the Tyson podcast, right? I want to talk about the tough issues too, though. Here, like, what's the worst ill effect that you think from a lifetime or a career of boxing? Because the average human being that doesn't box, I consider myself aggressive.
Right now, today, as long as I don't take a drink or a drug, I'm doing great. November 1st will be 6 years. No alcohol, no cocaine. My drugs of choice.
That's awesome, Peter. I'm proud of you. That's significant.
It's an amazing feat, man. Congratulations.
I want to get this out in the world so we can get you on Tyson's podcast, and we'll have to tell Mike no marijuana for Peter on there.
Well, hey, you might know I did not say anything about marijuana.
Peter.
Like they say here in Massachusetts, it's legal now. It's legal to smoke and carry up to an ounce of marijuana. Now, do I have any right now? No. But if a friend of mine came over right now and said, Pete, you want to smoke a little weed? I'd go, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Whatever it takes, Peter. Listen, we're going to wind this down. We hope to have you back on maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll check in with you occasionally. I promise you, we're going to put this out into the universe. I want to get you on
Randall
podcast.
Randall,
talk to me, Peter.
You know you're my man.
I feel the same about you, man. I enjoyed my visit with you in Dallas. I think you're a class guy.
Randall, I couldn't believe the day you said you said to me on the phone, what are we going to do? I said, call a local boxing. Find out where there's a local boxing gym. And when we walked into that gym, and the guy goes, hey, Peter. I mean, come
It was a
on.
cool moment for me, no doubt.
You couldn't script that.
No, I agree. And I shared that with the guys before, and it was pretty nuts. We're getting to the point in our show we're gonna take a break. Peter, you hit all the
Thank
questions
you.
and answered everything we wanted. Final thought? You got a final thought you want to tell anyone? You want to say anything to Mike?
God bless the United States of America, baby.
Yes, sir.
There may be a chance Mike might see this on TikTok when we cut it up. You got something you want to say to him directly?
Hey, Mike, except when the bell rings, Mike has always treated me with respect. We talked on the phone many times. We met in person once at the White. He's always treated me with nothing but respect. He's a great guy, a real good guy.
Good. And I'm going to make sure that we're going to try to get this in front of him. So, listen, have a great weekend. Just be glad you're not in Texas where it's a lot hotter. Have a great weekend. And I'll text you when I get off.
I love the heat.
Well, you get plenty of love here then. Listen, I love you, man. Good to see you.
Love you, Petey. I appreciate you for coming on, man.
You take care of yourself. You know, it's so weird how my life intersected with Peter's, you know, before. And I told you I was enamored with that fight because, I mean, I think about weird stuff sometimes. Like I when he got beat in that fight that night and I was in that bar with my girlfriend then at the time, that guy's commentary and face that story never left me. So I'm thinking, okay, we know what's going to happen with Tyson, but I often wondered what happened to him. I messaged him on Instagram. He only had a few hundred followers at the time. I knew the likelihood of a return message was pretty good. In fact, he called me. He called me immediately. And I didn't want to say this to Peter when he's on live. He and I have discussed it offline, right? I've seen him in person. He was once a vibrant, stocky, fighter. He fought Mike Tyson. When I noticed the first thing when he came here, his gait, his walk, he's got a limp. I believe personally, Peter's got fairly significant cognitive issues. I really want us to be able to, I'm going to take my earpiece out now that Peter's not here. I really want us to be able to try to help him out somehow.
Yeah.
If we can help get him in front of Mike Tyson somehow or get on that podcast, I want to get him to another neurologist. Check him out. Like, he's clearly got some issues, and we're not saying that to be negative. If you compare his speech and his movements from the footage that we see into what you just see now, like, I don't have pity. I don't have pity on Peter because Peter gets it. Like, he knows, like, he was fully willing. He told me to go through all that to be where he's at now. And I mean, he's overcome some addiction issues and all that. I'm a fan of the guy. I mean, you heard me tell him I loved him. Like, the guy gave me a couple of the biggest hugs I've ever had in my life when he was here. And without having met him previous, what do you think? What do you think about the whole situation with him there?
I think I'm only somewhat familiar with boxing to, the big fights and things like that. But I do know that fighting in general is a sport that takes a toll on you. And seeing him now in his current state compared to what I had seen in videos, like I said, I'm 25 years old. The only thing I had to go off of is videos that were taken in the 90s, and I was shocked the first time that I had seen him. I was surprised at just the difference time makes. Sometimes it's kinder to some people, sometimes it's not. And with fighters, there's an evaluation of, how much damage you take in certain areas and what that will affect you going forward. And I think he's a really great guy. He's got a hell of a story, and he's very, very interesting. But
I don't know what Peter has done or who he's hurt in his life. We've all done things, in our past or not been perfect. I judge somebody on how I feel about them and what they've done to me. And I know that Peter gave me a hug when he got off the plane and he opened up and told me a lot about his story. I like the guy. Right. I'm sure there's plenty of people in my past that can say things too, but I'm going to look into the camera so we can carve this up later for our social media. If there's anybody out there that thinks, neurologist standpoint from in mass or here, that feels like You want to take a look at Peter and maybe help him out. I think it's pretty clear he's got cognitive issues, CTE, anything that's basically making him foggy and is impairing and altering his gait, his natural walk. Reach out. Let's help this guy out, right? I mean, think about it. I'm almost 50. I probably been in a handful of fights in my day growing up, been hit 4 or 5 times. Man, that hurt. He's been hit in the head thousands of times.
That's what he does for a living,
right? So we would be negligent not to acknowledge that he has something going on. And again, it's not to make fun of Peter or do any of those things. I care about Peter. So if anybody out there feels that they can help or want to even start a GoFundMe for this guy, let's do it, right?
Absolutely.
I think we're going to go. Can we go in, Tyler? Can we go into a 3-minute break? We put your timer up and we'll come back. Is that possible? We'll be back. I think we've got 4 viewers right now.
All right.
I think it's JR's parents and then my wife and daughter, but we'll get there, right? It's our first episode. JR, man, you're a natural. Like I don't belong up here. It's going to be you and then somebody else eventually. I'm just the guy putting it together. I believe, man, that if football is your thing, right? But you just have a natural way. And our man in the street interviews, you're good, man. So we'll hit back up on that in a minute when we come back from the break. But to be honest, I drank 2 Red Bulls and I got to go to the bathroom.
I feel that. I understand. Let's do it. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Report. It's your co-host, J.R. Hensley. We are here with the fastest-growing sports podcast in the Dallas metro area. I feel like now would be a great time to kind of talk about the things that I've seen with these leagues, these lower leagues, working your way up into the NFL. I don't feel like it gets talked about as much. You know, you've got the league that I started out in is the CIF. We touched on it earlier in the show about, you know, the difference in players. There were a few guys in there that the talent wise, you know, there were a couple diamonds in the rough, but for the most part, you have a lot of guys that are really just trying to get their feet wet in a pro experience, smaller school people. And so some of the best guys I still keep in touch with to this day. They'll be at my wedding one day. But the things that you see in these lower leagues and the level of unprofessionalism or the just stuff that you would never expect are very prevalent with the way this goes. So we have the CIF. The first team that I was with a team called the Oklahoma Flying Aces, and at the time I called them like a day or two before their initial meeting, and I said, hey, this is my situation. I'm fresh off of rehab. I was 280 pounds dripping wet. I was like, look, I want to come in and play offensive line. And the coach over there at the time, his name is Mike Davis, Richard Davis. And he's a character for sure. He wanted to do everything. It was one coach on staff. It was him. He was the OC, DC, head coach, special teams. He did it all. He wanted to do it by himself. And when I walked in the room, he was like, and this is my last guy. A guy that I want to bring up to you, and introduce me. And I just remember everybody looking at me like, who is this dude right here? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna mesh well with any of these characters. And so, but it was interesting. They had us in like a Motel 6, and Enid in that area, it's a rougher area. There were a lot of, you know, shady characters. You deal with chronics, or, you know, that's what, you know, chronics, or people who have, you know, have issues with homelessness or things like that. And it was just a really sketchy area to be in. And so living in that environment, you know, you had to, every night I'd be out there peeking out the window, looking at my car, making sure it was good. Or I would hear crazy things going on in the middle of the night. But on top of that, we didn't get fed. There was no type of meal plan. We would have what was called Judy's Kitchen, and bless Judy, that was the coach's wife. She would make us these pan meals, and we would eat them all together collectively and just get as much as we could. But we were really struggling.
Talking about Hamburger Helper?
Exactly.
Oh,
that's exactly right. And don't get me wrong, I'll smack some Hamburger Helper.
Oh, you're right now.
Right. But that was definitely a culture shock. You know, I was a D1 guy. We weren't a big, huge, massive school with a ton of funding, but, you know, we had the training table, we had things like that. So it was a little bit of an adjustment with that. And then you work your way up into the IFL, and the IFL has a lot more professionalism, a lot more money around it, a lot more sponsorship opportunities and things like that, where the walls go from plywood and sandbags to, you know, foam dasher pads, and it's the real experience. You know, it feels like what arena football is supposed to feel like. And so everybody's goal from that point on is, in the IFL, you got a lot of guys that were either one way or another fell through the cracks, or they were NFL bounce backs, you know, that they didn't make the cut, something like that happened. And when I started the IFL, there was no USFL, and the XFL had just folded. Now, I was with a team in Spokane for a year, halfway through the season, owner's not paying the checks. You know, I'm a starter out there, and, you know, we're supposed to be getting $250 a game, and I'm getting asked, hey, big dog, what's your Cash App? What's your Venmo? What's your Zelle? I need your bank account information 4 different times. And it just gets really stressful and discouraging, especially as a professional athlete, when you're sitting there worried about, man, I can't even get $250 a game. You know, like what's going on? What am I doing? You know, I've already got my degree. You know, why am I going for it? But that's like the grit that you have to have, and you just have to kind of suck it up. And it's like, what do you want? At the end of the day, if you can get your film, that's really all you need. The arena ball is not about money, especially not anymore. The arena ball back in the day used to be a huge deal. Nowadays, it's kind of a shell of itself, but it is a stepping stone. If you use it correctly, it is a stepping stone. And so after that season in Spokane, they folded. They filed for bankruptcy. There's tax evasion. There's all kinds. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars owed to sponsors all across from that program. It doesn't exist anymore, which is crazy to think about. But I remember right as I'd finished that year, I told myself, you know what? I retire. Like, I am hanging the cleats up. If I ever experience anything like
sound like a quarterback from LSU.
Yeah, I can't. But Billy Back, was persistent with me. I didn't have any other opportunities at the time. I was working 3 jobs, doing security, doing bartending, I was working at a metal mill, cutting up parts for natural gas and oil fields. And then I just got that itch, man. I was like, God, I gotta see this through. I'm so close to trying to break out and find something. I could feel it, but I'm doing this without an agent. And Billy calls me up, and he was my head coach at Spokane. He's like, look, I'm going down south. You better get your cleats and your cowboy boots ready because we're going to Texas. And I said, all right, you know what? That's 3 hours from the crib. I have, if it doesn't work out and I don't like it, I can get in my car and I can go home. And I went in after the first day of our meetings. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to be the best I can with it. And that's what I use. I use this year as a stepping stone. And so with these leagues, the XFL is opening back up. It'll be in January. It'll start going. They've got their draft going on in November. Great opportunity for guys who are trying to get out and make it out. The USFL, which I was skeptical about in the first opening season, they were able to make it through their inaugural year. So there's a lot of excitement going on. I just think it's a really exciting time to be a football player. And with COVID hindering a lot of people not being able to do their pro days or whatever, the lower, the not as like highly touted recruits or sought after recruits that, the draftees or whatever got, this is the perfect opportunity to showcase your skills and get that chance at the next level.
Hey man, I'm glad you opened my eyes up to this whole process and how it goes and what goes on behind the scenes. And you got agents calling you, and some of them said stuff that was so crazy that you'll never. I mean, it blows my mind that guys are still talking that way today. But pivoting for a quick second, we talked about Turpin earlier, who is basically shining big time for the Cowboys right now in the return game. Granted, it's preseason, but I think he's passing the eye test for a lot of people. Right, the speed's there. What other? You didn't play with him at the same time. You weren't there. Did you play on the same team with, or anybody that was in your league this year that you played against that you saw? You're like, that guy's definitely going to the NFL.
Man, I'm biased, but we had a lot of dogs, especially with the Frisco Fighters. I think on the defensive end, we had this massive cat, Willie Hibbler. He was a linebacker from Ole Miss. You see him on the tape. He just looks like a man amongst children out there. I mean, he is SEC size, and he just looks like he ate some other linebacker and just became this just humanoid. I mean, he's a specimen, and I think he's going to get a great chance at the next level, especially with a few other of our guys. TJ Edwards went to the number 2 best.
But do you talk to Willie currently? Because
Willie was my roommate.
Well, my thing is, there's probably only going to be one guy out of the whole league get to the NFL, right?
Right.
Okay, so Willie's your top choice, you think?
Man, it's just so tough to say.
Shout out Willie, never met you. Guys, for Monday, we need to find some footage of Willie and put it in. Maybe we can, one of our 5 viewers who happen to be an NFL coach. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough it's tough to say because you're talking 50-yard field compared to a 100-yard field. I know old heads in the league that are just throwing dimes, unbelievable plays, but that's all they got is arena. Arena is all they've ever known. They'll be the best of the best of that. They'll be all IFL for the next 8 years. When I first came in, my quarterback was 36 years old and I was, 24. What the hell do we have in common? You were in middle school before I was even a thought. You know what I'm saying? So, right. So, it's difficult with the indoor football league guys. I think now with this upcoming season, I think a lot of guys that I know are going to get some opportunities in the XFL, CFL, or USFL coming up. And if they shine right there, man, I'm super excited. I would say right now, my front runner guy, Charles Williams, this dude, he's just signed a USFL contract with the Michigan Panthers. They got to steal with this dude. He has been all IFL 2 years in a row. He is a problem on the field. The IFL had to suspend him, and I think truly it wasn't because of what he was doing on the field. It was the problems he was giving people. I mean, this dude was a hack. He was a cheat code,
Right.
He's a defensive end. He'll make people look silly. And that's all I can. As an offensive lineman, a lot of respect to Charles Williams. So yeah, I think that's a guy. That's someone right there that I'm.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd like
looking
to see
forward
some
seeing.
footage on these guys. You showed me, I think, some clips. I didn't pick out specific names. As we get into the last, 15, 20 minutes of what we have going on here, I want to reiterate that we're going to be going live. JR and somebody in this desk, whether it be me or whomever, will be going live Monday through Friday. Right now, it's 10 a.m. Central Time to noon, because JR and I both like to eat lunch, and so right after it's over, right, we're gonna
Oh, yeah.
we're near downtown. We had Campese's downtown last night. I hadn't been at that location.
So good.
JR and my son's first time to eat Campese's. Wait till I take you to the original location. We're just going to hit up all these eating spots around here.
Oh, yeah.
For those that are familiar with Dallas, we are our studio's on Riverfront, so we're 5 minutes from the American Airlines, which is great because I want to show you guys. Some of these guys know I have this. All right, so this is a Rubik's Cube. All right, we put there's a glare on it. A Rubik's Cube mosaic of the one and only Luca. I'm a little pissed though because I heard he lost a bunch of weight. I've seen photos. We may have to slim down his face, but he still looks thin there. This is what I want to do with this. I want Luca. This is a glass cover. I want Luca to autograph this, and we're going to raffle it off to charity. I heard he's a big children's hospital guy here in town. So if we find the right person who buys this, he'll then just turn around and donate it right, and we'll hang it right there in the hospital, right? I couldn't pass up on that. I saw the guy online. I don't know if they could hear me very well because I stepped away, but that's a Luca. It's made entirely of mini Rubik's Cubes. Now, while I'd love to hang it right here and keep it up permanently, my original intent buying it was to get Luca to autograph it, raffle it off for charity, or maybe we just keep it. A guy flew in from New Jersey, and he's called the College Cuber. Look him up on TikTok.
The College
Cuber. That's where I found him. This guy's he's on fire right now. He's doing all the teams. I had him fly in and do this one of Luca. It was actually back during the playoffs, and then as soon as Dallas gets eliminated, Luca's playing internationally. He's gone. I don't think he's back in Dallas yet, but when he gets back, I want to get him. We want to get him over here. We're close. Autograph this. We'll raffle it off and donate the money to his favorite charity. Minus, of course, what it cost me to get him here. But this guy is on fire right now. He just did a Kobe Memorial cube mosaic the other day. He's worked with various NFL teams. It's nuts because he was out here and one of our guys was helping him carry this thing out. And they were headed over to the AAC and they were going to hold it and get fans to come up and shoot footage and content. And on the way out, they dropped this thing. And it breaks. And it took him about 5 or 6 hours to actually, there he is. It took him about 5 or 6 hours to redo it. So I just saw it and I was like, and I left because I'd already paid for it. And he stayed here and he did a good job. He's a good guy, recent graduate, engineering degree, good guy. But right now, this is what he's doing. So a lot of people see this Luca and think it's awesome. What I want to do is get this one signed and autographed, and donate and raffled off for charity. I want a full-size Dak.
Oh man, that would be so.
You know what
sweet.
I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to have a heavy donor on that before we ever do it, right? Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? So anyway, those are the kind of things we're working on around here. You can't really see the studio. I went live earlier, but back here's an area where we've had some of the local, 4 and 5 star high school recruits here. Shout out to a teammate of yours, a friend of mine. He was working with us for a while, Gerard Hurd.
Good dude, man.
Look at you, man. Look at the producers that were pulling it up.
Yeah, we beat Wyoming right there. We beat Wyoming at our place. That was a big time game for us, man. The Panilolo Trophy.
You look like a guy who's like in the world's strongest man contest right there at that moment. You got that Nordic look going on, and you look like you're pissed, but you clearly were doing some work because you're sweating your ass off.
Yeah, well, that's every day. I do that every single day walking around. But yeah, man, that right there is one of my favorite memories of my life.
Who was the offensive stud on that team that year?
On our team?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had John Ursula, filthy receiver. Ended up going to the Seahawks. And we also had a linebacker, Jelani Tavai. We ended up getting drafted to the Lions, second rounder. These guys really paved the way for us, their leadership, but also they were just clutch playmakers, man. They just couldn't be stopped. And every time, the best part about the run and shoot offense, man, as an offensive lineman, is you're sitting there in pass pro, right? Like 80% of the time, I'm in pass pro. So I'm sitting there locked up with a guy, Cole McDonald. Boom. I just see a rocket right over my head. And I'm like, right here, I see it go up, and I just see open space. John Ursua, Cedric Bird,
To the house.
JoJo Ward. Every time I'm like, oh, yep. Before the ball's even caught, I'm like, oh, yep, we're out there. All right, good. Let's go ahead and jog it down the field, get to the end zone, celebrate, party in the end zone with the boys, and then we're back to it. I mean, what a fun year that was.
Yeah, and I love to hear those stories. Guys like me who just God didn't bless us with the athletic ability to play, barely high school, much less college. It's exciting to hear it. I can see the passion, man. What year was the best team when you were there?
2019.
What was the record?
Yeah, so we won 10 games that year.
That's big.
Yeah, for Hawaii, that was a very, very big deal.
Yeah,
for us.
I mean, I'm a huge Longhorn fan, right? 10 wins for them would be huge. The next couple years, right? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that was such a great year to be a part of too. Everybody bought in. I think that was just like the culture. You talk about the most culturally diverse team in America. That was it. And man, when we meshed together, when we just bought in, and we're like, you know what? I like that guy over there. And locker room, it changed. Everything changed for us.
Yeah, I want to hear. I love these Hawaii stories, man, and I think that's why people will resonate with you. We'll get a certain amount of athletes that watch us, even though we're unknown, because you speak their language, right?
For sure.
Pivoting here before we're going to get off here shortly. College football,
It's back, baby.
back, baby.
College football is back. Let's go.
Let me
What a
look at
time.
the lineup for this week. Now, I'm really, no offense to the games this week, because mentally there's some big games next week.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking, whatever, but we're looking at the games we have for Saturday. Nebraska Northwestern, that sticks out.
In Dublin.
In Dublin, Ireland, we were discussing that, right?
Football has never been played on that field. It's going to be very interesting to see how they go.
Let me look down through here. But back to what we were talking about, Scott Frost. His leash is very, very short.
Yeah,
at this
he's
point,
on the
right?
hot seat right now.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about
Nebraska
that.
fans, rightfully so, they have high standards, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's a big time legacy school. Same thing with the Texas guys, and Texas is now named Quinn Ewers the coach. We've actually extended out an NIL offer, I believe, right? Are we in a process?
We're in the process
because we want him to come on and do a Monday morning quarterback thing, win or lose, where we talk about what happened. Again, it's hard for me to put aside my affinity for Texas. It's either Texas or Texas A&M here, right? And my daughter's a senior at A&M, but I came out of the womb. I was just a UT fan, right? I mean, I root for them. They got to do something, man. They've got to do something. I would consider him to be a big bust if Quinn goes there and we don't win, 8 or 10 games. He needs to do it this year, right? Because Arch is coming.
Oh yeah.
And we're in a more media driven than we've ever been. Think about this. At what other time in history could two guys, neophytes, with very marginal talent can get on and do a live show? Like, we could literally do this show every day for the next few years, even if people don't watch, because we also could do our regular jobs, right? So they're going to want Arch to play.
Oh yeah. I want Arch to play.
I do too.
I mean,
I've got a couple friends who believe, and they're Texas fans, who believe he'll never take a snap at Texas.
Oh yeah, we'll see about
he's
that.
going to go somewhere else, like whatever. I don't. We'll delve into that later, but I'm worried about the present. Quinn Ewers, to me, he's got to have some dog in him, right? We talk about that a lot. I mean, he's got a shaggy mullet. He's got that swagger. He went to Ohio State, took that NIL money because you can't get it here.
Right.
I don't fault you a bit, young man. Go get your money.
Get paid. Go get
your
paid,
money, man.
Absolutely.
But with that comes great responsibility.
It's changing the game, that's for sure.
You're going to come in and light this thing up, and they named him the starter. One thing, pivoting to A&M, they haven't named a starter yet, unless I'm missing something.
I'm not. Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
One of my daughter's roommates is doing some content for us there. They're currently students there. Well, I think we're sending her out this weekend, right, to ask the question on who's the quarterback. Who do you think the starter is? No, they're probably going to announce it today before she does it. It's going to ruin the whole segment. But either way, we'll come up with another one.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget we've got a couple other games over here for college football. We've got the
I saved this one for you.
Oh.
Go ahead, big dog.
Well, we got the Wyoming-Illy game, and Mountain West has taken a lot of issues with transfers, whether it be grad transfers or whether it just be people hitting the portal. Wyoming is no exception to that. They had a really tough offseason. So I'm going to take Illy for sure. I think I'm very, very excited. They're 9-1 in their last 10 season openers. So, I mean, I'm going to take those off.
Illinois is?
Yeah. And then
this is the one I say for you. The last game on the list that we're looking at, and I'd be an asshole if I brought this game up or discussed it. It's on you.
Yes. So we've got Vandy versus Hawaii, and I am extremely excited. This is going to be taking place over in Honolulu, so I'm super pumped about that as well. Actually, over in Manoa, they have like a feeder stadium right now that they're doing until after Aloha Stadium is condemned, so they're building a new one. So they've got their one on campus, but I'm really excited about this game. We've got a whole new team. This is a brand new set of guys. Like I was just saying with Wyoming, Hawaii really suffered in the offseason with grad transfers, portal hits. They ran out Todd Graham of that program, and now they brought in a local favorite, a local legend, a Hawaii legend, Timmy Chang. And this guy he's bringing culture back into the program. I'm super excited to see what they got. He's got this whole state behind him, and all the makings of what's great and special about Hawaii football. I'm obviously going to take the Bows here, but this is going to be a very interesting game. It's going to be a challenge for both teams. I'm curious to see how it goes, but I'm always rooting for the Bows, baby. I got them.
Absolutely, and that's why I put it. And I sent you the meme the other day. We would be remiss if we didn't discuss the huge gambling component that goes with sports, right? And I sent you a meme the other day that said, what did it say? I was looking up a minute ago that the Hawaii is 9-1 against the spread in their last 10 season openers. Mm-hmm. So if you are in a state that you can legally bet in, right, that might be something you keep in mind.
Something to think about. That's for sure.
I'm the kind of guy that goes, oh, well, they 9-1 in the last 10 games. They're bound to not cover. And you know what I mean? So, but do with that information what you will. It's 8-1 or 9-1 in their last, amount of games that they've covered the spread.
When you make your bets, whenever you're looking at like sports betting, are you a big like on paper guy? Like, or are you, do you feel it out a little bit? Like when you see a stat line like that, does it jump out at you? Are you like, does it influence your decision? Or are you more like, I know who's on the roster, I know what this team looks like, I have faith in this team? Like, what do you like?
Yeah, it's a complete shit show. It's better, right? 'Cause I get a meme like that. If I send you a meme like that and you were on going, not you because you're a Hawaii guy, but let's say one of our other guys are like, I'm betting Vandy, and I send them that, they're gonna text me back, F you.
Right. Like
you just totally messed up my research or whatever. To me, and I'm not a professional, I think that those things do help me out. Like that's a big glaring stat. Mm-hmm. But at some point that stat has to go the other way.
Correct.
So it just depends on what side of that coin you're on at that time. But I do my research, and as much as anybody else does, right? I mean, we pretend that we are in the sports media. So we're constantly, we place our bets with Caesars, if you guys are asking, legally at Horseshoe Casino in Shreveport. So we go down, we'll go down pretty soon and hit the kiosk up and, make bets for a week or so. But yeah, I take that info into account. I'm in a group text with buddies, lifelong friends, guys I respect that know the game. And we discuss those things. We help each other out. I usually, or historically, when I see a plus sign in front of a number, which is the underdog, man, I'm the guy in our group that takes probably 80% dogs. And when they hit, right? They hit big or whatever. But yeah, I do take that into account. I mean, some of that stuff is put out there for a reason because they want you to buy into it.
Right.
And then guys that are sharing it between each other, like we feel like that helps. But
Right.
we will get into next week is when we're going to start seeing some of the bigger games, Georgia, Oregon.
I'm so
Those games
excited
we're going
for
to
that.
break down on our morning show, which is going to kick back up. We had a young man here hosting the show. He did a great job. I had him come down from Boston. He's since moved back. We've got a couple other people that want to. It's Bet the Day. It's completely separate from this show, but we are. We feel like we like to use Caesar's sports book, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're going to try to hit up that high school game tonight, right?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
One of our interns, I know they're watching. One of you guys volunteer ride out with him to Allen tonight. Let's watch our Allen guys go up against the number one team in the nation from Cali.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is a big deal, especially around this area. There's no doubt this is going to be a highly anticipated game. A lot of excitement going on, especially in the community around us. So I'm looking forward to that, man.
I think it'll help you peel back the layers and figure out who some of the local Dallas, we would call these stud players are. We did the research on it, and there's quite a few of the top 20 recruits that live in the Metroplex. Matter of fact, if you look on our social media, we had 4 or 5 in here with Malik Jefferson, and they were discussing NIL deals, and the guys had good questions. They were here, and we brought him into the studio, and Malik signed with the Cowboys, man, like a week later. So Malik Jefferson, Longhorn, former Longhorn, and now Dallas Cowboy, we're pulling for you big time. And he's in that linebacker room every day, right? With to me, this guy will go down as the greatest Cowboy ever, Micah Parsons. Greatest defensive player ever, Micah Parsons.
Oh, yeah. That was really like
and I feel there's something special brewing in that room. I wish I could be in there. But maybe if we get Malik to come on, it's as good as being in there for us.
Oh, yeah. No
You got any final thoughts? We're gonna kick it off for the weekend.
Yeah, just a couple of things probably. I did a little Q&A over there on my Instagram account of what you guys wanted to talk about. And I'm sure as far as the show goes, keep sending in comments, subscribe, like the videos, and tell me what you guys want to hear and what you want us to talk about. Because right now, we have people wanting for advocating for NFL MVP race. We'll get there. How the Lions will make the playoffs, we'll see. I just want them to get 500. I don't know if you've been watching Hard Knocks, but if you haven't, it is must see, must watch TV. Please go and watch it. It's amazing. football, obviously, of course, look around. Like we have everything here for that. XFL, USFL is going to be super important. That's something we're going to touch up on moving forward. Any kind of news or updates. College football teams switching divisions. Historical black colleges, game highlights. The Browns, they'll be relevant when they're relevant. And the World Series, we're going to try and venture out to as many sports and things that we can. But obviously, I'm a football guy, so we're going to talk shop on some football. But
yeah, it's funny you bring up the Lions, Hard Knocks. And my final thought is, man, I wish you wouldn't have gotten me watching it this year because I mean, I like Dan Campbell a lot, but there's some of the players on that team I'm really starting to like. Rodrigo.
Rodrigo.
I personally didn't know much about him before. He's an Oklahoma State guy, right? And my in-laws live, 15 minutes from there. He's special. He's going to be a special player.
I know.
He passes the eye test like crazy.
He does, and he's an effort guy, man. You can't teach that.
He's one of those guys that wherever the ball is, there's a magnetic pull to him, right? There are some guys that it's the opposite way when they get to a next level. But anyway, guys, we are ecstatic that you came on here. And if you're watching or even watching the non-live version, check out our social media, right? Our TikTok. We've got a Stephen A. Smith. We got a Stephen A. Smith and Jerry Jones video that's going crazy on TikTok right now. Go watch it. It's under the Sports Report. And we have Instagram and all those things, right? Just like everybody else does. Send us ideas in for your content. Tell us we suck. Whatever you need to do. But J&R and I are going to sign off. Thanks to the guys off screen, Anthony, Tyler. Again, Isaac, you're in our thoughts, man. Thinking about you, Kevin and Tyler, UNT, our interns. I know they're watching, they're texting, but man, it was a fun one with you today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Seriously, I am looking forward to this journey that we're starting here. It's just the beginning. There's a lot of room to grow here, and I really think the sky's the limit with this thing.
I think I got the right guy here. And we had to me, our first episode, we've got a DeMarcus Ware interview, right? And we've got Peter McNeely on. We probably should have spaced that out a little bit or whatever. But I want to give, I'm going to say this and then we're going to get off. We want to build our guest list. We want to build it up. Someone that I respect in the reporting game, and she's always on point, and she's got a big contact list too, Jane Slater. I've known of Jane since she was a regular news reporter out in Tyler. I'd love to have Jane come on as maybe a fairly regular contributor if she would stoop so low as to join us. I want Co Wetzel to come on. My kids and my wife know Co from the Pittsburgh days.
Yeah.
I want him to come on. His manager, Dre, is a funny guy. And there's other guys, but those are two I think of right now. But we want DeMarcus Ware to be part of this team.
Oh, yeah.
DeMarcus will come set a studio up in your house, or you can come here or whatever. But I want to leave it on that thought. DeMarcus, you are on our mind.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.
We'll be back on Monday.